you read the Quran?
Have I read the Quran? Yes.
Why don't you agree with it?
Because there are parts of it that are factually untrue.
Like?
For example, Surah 4, ayah 157, that says that Jesus wasn't crucified.
Yeah.
No historian
wait,
says that
there,
seriously.
So
Okay.
If the Quran is the word of God, why would you believe the word of the disciples over the word of God?
I don't believe the Quran is the word of God.
Okay, but it is the word of God. Because it says
no. This is a great argument. Mate, you can't just assert your faith. If I said to you the Bible's completely true, trust me, that's not a good argument.
I didn't say that.
You just said the Quran is the word of God, and I said, well, I don't believe it is. It's factually
untrue.
untrue. Okay, explain.
I said it's the word of God because it says in it it's the word of God.
That's not a good argument. That's not a good argument.
That's not a good argument, but it's the same way that you believe.
That's not my argument. I'm not saying that. You're saying
it's not a good argument. You believe in the Bible the same way.
Right. I don't believe in the Bible because it says it's the word of God, therefore it is. That's a terrible argument.
I've never heard.
That's what you just said.
Oh, you're stupid. You know why?
Okay, say. You're careful there.
You're stupid.
Can I say something?
Calm down. Don't call me stupid. I didn't call you stupid.
You are stupid.
I called your argument stupid. I didn't call you
stupid. You can't be an
stupid.
intellectually superior person.
I'm not trying to be.
Huh?
I'm just trying to find truth.
Okay, you're being stupid now.
Why are you saying that? What are you saying?
Oh, you don't follow the Quran because but you just follow the Bible, which is exactly the same thing.
The Bible, I think, has historical truths in it that Jesus was crucified, which every scholar, including scholars who are against us. Well, what are you on about? I'm giving you a reason for the historical evidence of the crucifixion. Your Quran denies that.
Historical evidence for the crucifixion?
Yes.
What does that mean?
It means that the crucifixion is testified by multiple witnesses to have occurred, including those who are enemies of Christianity.
So you just waffled and basically just said the disciples will now what Jesus did. Is that what you just said?
No, there are many people such as Tacitus, Josephus, the Talmud.
Listen, there's no point convoluting the arguments to appear smarter. The basics of what you're saying.
Well, it's basically don't even bother making an argument.
No,
if I can quote people who says that Jesus was crucified, it doesn't matter.
Argument for no reason. There's no reason.
That's convoluted.
It's very simple, your argument.
Okay, Jesus was crucified, that's my argument.
It's very simple.
Jesus was crucified, that's my argument.
Listen, your argument is that the disciples of Jesus, they wrote down what Jesus did. That's your argument.
Well, it's part of it, I guess.
Historical evidence, blah, blah, blah. What's the need for
that? Historical evidence, blah, blah, blah. Who cares about that, right? Why do you need historical evidence of things that the Bible claimed actually happened?
How does that benefit your argument?
Because it shows that the Bible is trustworthy. Whereas it shows that the Quran is not trustworthy.
How do you know it's historically correct?
Because other people who are around as witnesses claim to have... No, but the witnesses were.
How do you know the witnesses are saying the truth?
Because we have multiple attestations. You need to prove that they were lying. Multiple attestation that the event occurred. That means that multiple people claimed that the crucifixion occurred and they were not friends of Christianity. They were enemies of Christianity.
So the crucifixion occurred. What's that supposed to mean?
That means that the things that are recorded within the Bible, such as that Jesus was crucified, is true. Now the Quran denies this in Surah 4, ayah 157.
During the rule of the Roman Empire, crucifixion was the most degrading and excruciating form of execution, used not merely to kill, but to display the empire's absolute authority. It was more than a physical punishment. It was a public spectacle of terror, meant to humiliate political enemies and strike fear into the hearts of onlookers. Historians like Cicero described it as the most cruel and disgusting penalty, while Seneca wrote that victims were often left hanging for days, sometimes in various positions, to prolong their agony for the entertainment of the crowd. This paints a vivid social backdrop. Crucifixion was the ultimate symbol of Roman dominance over anyone who dared to challenge imperial power. In first-century Judea, such executions were common, especially against those seen as rebels or threats to Roman control. The Jewish historian Flavius Josephus recorded that thousands of Jews were crucified during uprisings and revolts. Under the rule of Pontius Pilate, governor of Judea from AD 26 to 36, Rome dealt harshly with any movement carrying political undertones. Therefore, the charge against Jesus as King of the Jews, as recorded in the Gospels, carried serious political weight. Under Roman law, such a claim could be interpreted as treason against the emperor. The crucifixion of Jesus under Pilate's authority was, therefore, not an anomaly, but entirely consistent with Roman legal practice.
See, my friend, you need to give arguments. You can't just keep you're just blindly asserting Islam. It's like, no, but Islam.
What surah is it?
Okay, Surah 4, let's follow this, yeah? Surah 4, ayah 157.
You're very knowledgeable, yeah?
I'm not knowledgeable. I'm not telling you I'm a scholar. I'm not a scholar.
No.
I'm just a person who reads, yeah? I read the Quran, I read the Bible. Blunt argument of Islam is true just because it is.
Blunt, my friend.
And I was like, it denies the crucifixion. It was like, so?
He said the Quran is true
because it says it's true.
I'm sorry.
The logic is amazing.
Yeah, that's why IQ.
You need to have better reasons, my friend.
My IQ is 130. What's your IQ?
I don't know.
Then it's lower than mine, much lower than mine.
Okay,
so you
well,
think intellectually.
you're just throwing insults.
So it's not insult.
Is this ad hominem? Are you just saying I'm wrong because you're making arguments against me?
I'm observing facts. So 157.
That's not really a fact.
Seriously, you're coming off a lot worse than you think.
And I'm stating facts. There's two parts.
Okay, let's deal with my argument. Yeah? Let's deal with my argument. Surah 4.
have killed the Messiah, son of Mary, blah, blah, blah. They did not
Speak out
kill
loud.
him, nor did
Why?
they crucify him.
So Jesus wasn't crucified.
Who are they?
Though
Who
it
are
was
they?
made to appear
Who
like
are
that
they?
to them.
Oh, so Allah tricked
So he
people.
wasn't a cross.
Allah tricked people.
Allah is a deceiver.
Allah deceiver.
Allah is a
You just said that
deceiver.
Allah made it look like Jesus was
Deceiver,
crucified. So Jesus wasn't crucified, right? According to that verse, but it was made to look like Jesus was crucified. Yes. So Allah deceived people into thinking that Jesus was crucified. That led to the world's biggest religion, by the way, called Christianity.
What's your argument?
My argument is twofold. First of all, that the Qur'an denies the crucifixion, which all scholars
the
of
Quran
modern
is
day
God.
accept that Jesus
No,
was
wait,
crucified.
wait. You're believing scholars over the word of God.
What over the Quran? The Quran is not the word of God. You keep assuming that the Quran is the word of God.
Assuming. It says it itself. This is the word of God. There's no.
Just because the
Why-
Quran
why-
says
why
it's the
go-
word of
why
God
go and-
doesn't mean it's the word of
If it
God.
is the word of God,
It must be.
how can the goat eat? How can the goat eat the word of God?
1 second, I'm not talking.
How can goat eat the word of
I
God?
don't talk to you, bro.
Yeah,
You
come
need
on,
to learn
come on.
something.
No. Basically, they are treating our Bible the way their Quran is treated. Their Quran is eaten by God.
Wait, I
No,
gave
they
you
are also
arguments.
treating
You
the
can't
Bible
answer.
that it's
You don't
being
need to.
corrupted.
You don't need to answer my
I've
arguments.
counted every single argument.
Your counter was that, but the Quran says it's the word of God, and I'm like, yeah, but it's wrong.
Yeah, here it is. Here it is. Look here.
You have
Look
nothing.
here.
You think you're right.
There is a guidance
I gave you an
and
argument.
there is a
You
light
can't
in
address
there.
it.
You're not listening to what I'm saying.
My friend, come to
Oh, you
Christ
think
because
you're right.
you're in delusion. And he
right.
went away. He went away.
Yeah, walk away.
I told him to come to Christ, and he ran away.
Yeah.
From a historiographical perspective, Surah An-Nisa 4:157 occupies a fascinating yet problematic position when examined academically. The verse appeared roughly 6 centuries after the crucifixion event recorded in first-century sources. In other words, the Quran speaks of an episode long past, disconnected from the Roman Jewish world in which it originally occurred. In historical studies, such a long interval creates what scholars call a temporal gap, a break in the chain of testimony that separates the original event from later narratives. A source that emerges centuries after an event, from a different cultural and geographical setting, cannot be treated as a primary historical record. It is more accurately viewed as a theological reflection shaped by religious belief rather than by eyewitness memory. When compared to first-century documentation, the position of the Quran becomes clearer. Roman sources such as Tacitus in his Annals and Jewish sources like Josephus in Antiquities both record that Jesus was executed under Pontius Pilate. Even non-Christian witnesses, Lucian of Samosata and the letter of Mara bar Serapion, mention that a wise man from Judea was put to death by crucifixion. These accounts demonstrate that the testimony concerning the death of Jesus rests on a broad and solid historical foundation, acknowledged across traditions. There is not a single contemporary source that supports the idea that the crucifixion did not occur or that someone else was made to resemble Jesus in his place. The Quranic claim therefore stands alone, unsupported by any contemporary evidence. When early Islamic commentators sought to explain the phrase "shubiha lahum," it was made to appear so to them, they produced a wide range of interpretations. Al-Tabari, in his tafsir, records multiple versions. Some claim that one of Jesus' disciples was substituted, others suggest Judas Iscariot, and still others refer to unnamed figures. Al-Razi, a rationalist scholar of the medieval period, openly admitted that there was no consensus among Muslim theologians regarding who was actually made to appear. This diversity reveals that early Islam lacked a coherent historical tradition about the event. The interpretations were theological and apologetic, not grounded in empirical or historical data. Modern historiography evaluates the credibility of an event based on 3 key principles: proximity in time to the event, multiple independent attestation, and coherence with the historical and cultural context. Surah 4:157 fails to meet all 3. It appears too late to provide first-hand testimony, lacks independent corroboration, and does not align with the political and legal realities of first-century Roman Judea, where crucifixion was a well-documented practice. By contrast, early Christian and non-Christian sources satisfy these historical criteria, making the crucifixion of Jesus one of the most firmly established facts of ancient history. In this light, the Quranic narrative should be understood not as a record of historical memory, but as a theological reinterpretation, a later faith-based response that reshapes history to fit a developing religious worldview, rather than a report derived from contemporary evidence.